Hey everybody, welcome back. We're doing another Marvel Future Revolution video. This time we're going to be talking about gear. Been doing a beginner series. This is a part of that. We might cover some topics that you're unfamiliar with, so hopefully it can help everybody from a beginner to maybe a middle game player. I think most end game players probably know most of this stuff, but either way, hopefully you find the content helpful. If you're new to the channel, check out the Discord link in the description below. Hammer down like buttons, comments, subscribes, all that stuff if you want as well. All right, so let's go check this out.
Bring me WolverThor!
Okay, so gear. I guess we got to start at the most basic part, right? So gear, you get 4 pieces. You get a head, you get a chest, you get arms or a gun in my case with Widow, you get some boots. Okay, that's simple, right? So you want to get these pieces of gear, they help you get stronger. Now, how do you make these pieces stronger? Where do you get them from? All that sort of stuff is what we're going to try to cover in this video. I'm not going to go into in-depth about what you should specifically choose. Might going to get some of that a little bit, but we'll cover some stuff about where we can find these, and I think some tidbits about where you can probably properly focus your attention. So the first thing is, where do you get them, right? When you're starting the game, you know, outside of spending money, which you can always do. Go spend money if you want. Go to the store. You know, go here, spend money, find draw tickets. You got your costume draws. You could buy these for crystals. I'm sure there's all sorts of different, you know, gear bundles in here, different tickets, you know, different boxes that you can probably buy. Was this a mega? You could get a 5-star or a core or a mega card from these. So you could always buy, right? But the part that you're probably going to get if you're just starting the game or kind of going through the game, you're going to get gear through a lot of quests. Make sure to do those yellow quests. You know, when you're flying by and you see some yellow text pop up from a NPC somewhere in the game and you go by them and they give you a quest, those quests typically give you gear. I always make sure to do those yellow quests. I highly recommend it because you need endless amounts of gear to crunch, and we'll get into that in a second. One of the things when you're starting, I talked about money. Now, even if you're free to play or cheap to play, there is a offer that you get. I forget exactly what level it's at, but you get an offer for about $4 that that gives you 4 pieces of gear at 3 stars. I have not ever bought this before. I've got all my characters except for Captain America and Iron Man at level, you know, at least build up. Star-Lord's getting close to 100. Star-Lord was the first one I bought it for, and it makes leveling so much easier. So much easier. And it's for $4. I'm like, that $4 is worth my time spent leveling. On top of that, if you're ever going to actually build a character, you're going to want more 3-star pieces, again, to crunch. So I highly recommend if you can afford the $4, do it. Even if you're going to do it on all tunes, I think it's worth it. If I had to go back, I'd do it on every single tune I leveled up just because it's that much simpler. So I do want to throw that deal out there. The daily most wanted, that's another spot that you can always get stuff from. So whenever you finish these and you've got your reward here, I've already done mine. This final reward, pick the box. There's gonna be 3 options. Pick the box every single time. Okay, so you can get one of those every single day. Special ops, that's another part of our daily that we have to do, right? You can see that you can get a specific costume box, right? Now it's Sakaar. It's not a guaranteed Sakaar. It's got a chance. I don't even think it clicks on here to see the chance, right? But no. But this specific box, you have a chance for a Sakaar piece. Pretty low, but regardless, you have a chance to get a piece of gear in this. So definitely do your special ops every day for not just that, but you have an opportunity in this box where you can get 8 to 12 sim particles. You always want to get those for the other way that you can potentially get some gear in the game, and that is crafting. We've got our workshop over here. This thing, I just mentioned sim particles right here. You need a bunch of these. In soft launch, they up this from 3 to 5, so it makes it harder. So I'll come in here, I'll go ahead and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make 2 of these, right? So then I go here and it shows in 4 hours, I'm going to get 2. Oh, look, I have a craft that's already completed that I must have done earlier today or yesterday. I'll claim it. It's got a small chance for Midgardia. You never get it. It's never there, but I get 2 pieces of gear, right? So that's another way that you can make gear in the game. I'll come back in a few hours. Again, these sim particles you end up running out of. Even your Convergium you end up getting tight on, but that's another way you can make or get gear in the game. You know, I mentioned spending money. There is one other spot in the store that technically doesn't cost money, and that is our friendship store. So you can see I've got 27,000 friendship points. I buy this costume box every time. It's very similar to what you can get from, I think, the Special Ops. I think it might be the same piece, actually, now that I think about it. I get this every single time. Maybe I'd consider the cores, but that's a separate video. Core upgrading is terrible. So you get the store here from the friendship. These other ones don't really have one at this point. It's good stuff in there. Dimension Duel, same thing. This is all kind of like mats and things. But, and Dark Zone. But in the special token store, we get Omega points. This is also another spot you can get gear from, but it's very expensive. It's hard to get. Typically, you're spending money to get Omega points. This is kind of a pity type system. So I wouldn't necessarily count on getting this, but if you are spending some money and you're trying for regionals, this is definitely the spot to do it in my opinion. So that covers most of, not all of the spot where you can get your gear from. So now the question is, all right, so understanding gear a little bit, right? When I'm looking at my gear, you can see that, so I've got, this is just in my bank. So I've got different stats on this. This is a 6-star piece. You can see I've got 5 different stat categories here, right? There's another spot up here, bonus stats, that is. There's a spot for nano fusion stats. I'll get into that later. And then you've got your general stats up at the top. Every piece is very similar. This one, you can see I've got 5, but 3 of them are all jammed up in that one. So my gun's got defense. My boots has HP. This has got 5 because it's star 2. This one's 5 stars. It's only got 4 bonus stats, right? So that's every time you level up, you can look at here. 2, it's only got 1. 4, it's got 3. So if I would, at 1, it's got nothing. So every time I crunch these up, and again, I'll talk about that in a second. You probably know what that is at this point, but you get a stat, all right? And each different piece of gear actually can have a different number of stats on it. They're not going to be all the same. And some of the stats are going to be good, and some of the stats are going to be bad. So you really want to hope to get the best. It's an RNG dice roll, which you can try to play with later, which I'll touch on in a second, but you got to keep your fingers crossed. So that's why it's important to keep the gear that you think you might build towards, because that's something that I don't want to dive into too much, but you can see in my store here, or my inventory, I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm going to break, crunch and build up. I've got regionals, and I've got a whole bunch of Red Widow stuff. All of these are Red Widow. All these are Red Widow. That one's a Red Widow. And then I'm trying to build up, and I've got some blues that I'm building up to eventually crunch into my 6s. And then once I get the right stats on my 6s, I'm going to do some other stuff. Again, I'll talk about that more in a second. So you really got to hope for the best. You can see this gun here. Kind of like, I don't really love this. Status of effect resistance. I'm like, that's great, but I don't like that as much. I really, what did I end up sticking with? I think I actually might have gotten this draw, but I liked this one better, where I got crit damage decrease, some defense, some dodge rate. Okay, so now the question is, well, what sort of stats can drop on each one? And I'm gonna give a shout out to Neuromancer, and we're gonna check out his spec builder sheet. This thing's amazing. He's put on Reddit. Top-notch stuff. He and I are working together to try to get some stuff out on this. More on that to come, but is an amazing, amazing sheet. All right, so we're looking at, this is part of the document. This thing is way more complicated than what I'm gonna cover right here, but that's fine. So we've got the headpiece, we've got the chest piece, we've got some arms or gun, and then we've got feet. So he's done some research here to find out what stats can drop on each one. So we've got head, he's got attack, critical damage, crit rate, debuff accuracy, defense pierce. Chest, attack, accuracy rate, crit damage, guard. Arms goes through some more crit damage decrease, defense, debuff resistance, dodge rate, guard damage decrease, and then feet, cooldown decrease, HP recovery, stamina recovery, and ultimate gauge recovery. So now again, you might, I think generally speaking, most people have an idea of what stats they really want to go after. There's some minor debate over some things that you might think some's a little bit better than others. But one of the things I want to absolutely point out here is, if you notice, there's only one piece on this that has accuracy rate on it. Accuracy rate matters so that people cannot dodge, miss, etc. Accuracy rate matters. Chest is the only piece that has that. See how none of these other ones have it? So unless you're getting in cards or badges or somewhere, different videos, as far as your gear goes, this is your only spot you're going to get it on. So make sure your chest has some accuracy rate on it, okay? You know, maybe 2-3 stacks of it. When you're looking at it, what else might you want? I really like crit damage. Attack's not bad. Guard damage, I think I could see that playing in the meta maybe at some point, but I'm really looking for accuracy rate. So yeah, and then when you look at head, I love defense pierce. Crit rate, it depends on the tune, but that kind of matters. Black Widow, maybe you care less because you can ult nonstop and get crit whenever you want, but you're still going to be out of stealth a lot. Crit damage always matters. Debuff accuracy, Widow, I don't really care about that, so I don't want to see that on there. I really want crit damage, defense pierce. I'll take attack and crit rate. Chest, you know, accuracy rate, like I mentioned, crit damage, attack, guard damage, all of these, none of them are really bad, but since accuracy rate is one of the only, this is the only spot I can get it, I really want to focus there on that. Arms, debuff resistance, never bad, but I don't love it. Guard damage decrease, kind of a similar boat. Crit damage decrease, same thing. Dodge rate seems to be the cat's meow for the most part, but as people increase their accuracy rate, this might not matter as much unless the cap increases, right? Which, how can you increase the cap much more than it is at the moment? But regardless, these are all pretty solid. Like I said, dodge rate's what I'm really looking for. Crit damage decrease, I don't mind. Feet, I do not want HP recovery. I don't want it. Okay, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. As Widow, I like ultimate skill gauge recovery. I like stamina recovery, and I even like my cooldown decrease. Those three I always like, but if I've got any HP recovery on my feet, while it's nice, it's not anywhere near what the other ones are. So I'm re-rolling if I have that at all my feet. I'm not touching that for a 6-star piece. That's going to go into fodder. So those are the stats you want in there. Again, not going to debate what's best or not, but that's what you can get from your gear. And again, great work, Neuromancer. Okay, so those are some of the stats there. Now, the other thing you want to notice is set bonuses. Every different type of set has some set bonuses. You just saw the Red Widow one there. This is an original suit where you can get attack, crit, and then typically the fourth one's the difference. That's what you want to pay attention to. The first two are generally the same. You'll see attack, crit damage, attack, crit damage. Do I have anything? Here's Fear itself. Attack, crit damage. So you get the idea, right? That's generally where you're going to get something different. Sakar, attack, crit damage, something else. So those set bonuses are important to an extent. You could either do, you know, look, all 4 if you want, or 2 sets of 2. Right now, what I've actually got a 3 set in there to get that crit damage. And then I've got a really nice pair of boots, but they're Fear itself boots. The only reason these are 6 stars because I got them out of a chest. So I like everything I see here. I love it. So unless I get a really good set somewhere else, it's like, oh gosh, you know, like as much as I love my 4-star bonus here for the firearm, this is really hard to pass up, right? So those are the type of things you got to think about when you're looking at how to combine the different set bonuses. Okay, so next up, you guys probably already know this at this point, the enhancement stuff, crunching. If you want to build something from 1 star to 2, you put it in the enhanced costume. You get, you know, 5 other pieces. You click, go ahead and do it. It gives you the next star up with some additional stats. You do this all the way from 1 up to 6, right? And then from there, there's another section here, costume nano fusion. Okay, so this nano part, costume nano fusion, right? So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to click this. I want to nano it. And then if it gives me a red star here, and then I could come here and use that if I wanted. Now, I'm not going to do this because this is actually the gun I like and want to use. But what I have to do here is I actually notice that's the only one that pops up is my Red Widow bite, right? Even though I have in my inventory, I actually have this Fear itself hair. So you have to have the exact same piece. So see this Red Widow's bite? I click this one, this Red Widow suit. That means I need to have another 6 of a Red Widow's bite to put in there. So as long as you got the same type, that's how you go through there and nano it. Now, the key thing before you nano, like we've been talking about before, see all these bonus stats? You've got to be happy with those. Once you nano it, those can no longer be changed. Okay, they cannot be changed anymore. If you want to go through and change something, you know, and you just re-roll it all, you can go through here and actually try to do that. if you want to change stats, and you can do this, so come through here, you click this, register stat change, all right? So I could click here, and then I'd have to do this one, and all I need is one, all right? I do this, I click that, but that means I lose that. So it would change and re-roll all of my stats. I could do this one. I could do the same thing. So that's why I'm keeping this Fear itself 6 star, so that if I want to re-roll stats on a piece that I'm actually trying to nano, I've got it, right? So that is the way to re-roll all, but again, it will re-roll every single stat on that piece. So that's what you need to understand. So maybe I don't like the guard damage on this. I could re-roll this and get 3 guard damage, 2 attacks, and lose my accuracy rate, which I mentioned earlier. Like, ideally, I'd love 2 accuracy rate on that. That'd be great for me. I'd take everything else on there, remove the guard, and put the accuracy rate on there. But if I do that, I might lose the other one. So you can't lock in any stats. I'd love to be able to like pay crystals, lock in these 3, just change these 2. I would 100% do that, but it's not how the gacha RNG game works, okay? So understand that's the only way to re-roll all your stats, and understand that before you nano, you want to make sure that you're happy with your stats, because nanoing is expensive, and you want to make sure that you have what can be considered a god roll on it. You know, like the main stats that you want are darn close to it before you start nanoing. Couple other tidbits: never ever crunch your regionals. So make sure that if you've got them in your actual inventory, that they're locked. For me, I don't love this. I dropped a lot of my other regionals in my inventory. I wish I could lock these in here. You could see this is a Midgardia boot that I got. You know, I've got a Sakar gun. I've got some other ones down here. Sometimes it's a little tough to look, you know, and it's like, is that a shiny thing? I can't tell. Like, okay, you know, so I'd love to be able to lock those in. Do never crunch those, because the regionals, if you do decide or get enough gear to nano your regionals, you're going to need a ton of those, and they are crazy hard to get. Okay, so never, ever crunch your regionals. The only use for those regionals is if you want to use them to nano that same regional. That's it, in my opinion. So next, you're probably wondering, all right, well, that's all great and all, but what gear do I actually want to upgrade? I'm not going to get super big into this. It is a whole nother video, and it's a debate based on what character you're playing, how you play, are you playing PvE versus PvE, all these different things. But when you're trying to make your decision, go here. So go to your go to the records, go to collection, go to costumes, and just look through this. See what you want. I picked Red Widow. You know, I like the firearm expert skill. You know, I could probably do Yelena Belova is another popular one for Widow. Widow Sting is pretty good. There's decent things in here, but you just got to decide, what ability do you like to use the most? Are you a trap expert? Okay, maybe you like that one. Maybe it's something you've got set up. So then you want to do spacesuit. Fear itself. You know, and again, because all of these top ones are typically the same. Explosive expert skill. There's a few other ones that are slightly different. Regionals, again, you know, so here's your Hydra. Attack. There's no crit damage on Hydra. All right, well, I don't like that. I like my crit damage. All new, different. Attack. Savage Shadowlands. You've got totally different here. So for me, I'm looking at this, I'm going, I'm only building a Savage Shadowland if there is some sort of like major PvE content in the game that I really need to be super strong and I want to get top-notch stuff. Now there is in Dark Zone, but it's only for a couple cards, and I'm kind of like, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch into trying to upgrade that. So anyway, the point is you got to come through here and you've got to decide. Right? And then these special costumes, these are crack and whale territory. I'm not even going to cover this, but you know, yes, people really do love some of these because it gives them some abilities, upgrades as far as what they're actually using versus just some general stat upgrades. You know, and for a long time, I was Midgardia. I wanted Midgardia because I really liked the Deadly Aim class. That gave me a couple abilities that got better, but the problem is it was so hard to get Midgardia that I was keeping myself back stat-wise. And so I just decided, like I said, I can get a whole bunch, and you saw it in my storage, I could get a whole bunch of actual Red Widow, and I could build those up to 6, and eventually, and you can see, look at all this stuff I've got in my bank. I've got all of these Red Widows that I'm building up, okay? And as I get those up, I've stopped building those up because I got some decent stats on the ones in here. And now I'm building a bunch of other stuff to get more 6 stars. And then as I get the stats I want, I'm going to nano them. I'm going to build up the other Red Widows that maybe the stats weren't great on. Like, so I click this and I'm like, You know, that's actually not bad, but it's got guard damage. You know, this gun. Maybe I didn't love that gun, or maybe I'm still deciding. You know, if I come up here, what do I got? You know, this 5-piece. I don't love this one. So, you know what? I'm going to use that. I'm going to get that to 6 reds, and I'm going to use it to nano another Red Widow piece. So that's why I save them. They're much easier to get. I personally recommend doing that unless you're going to Kraken or whale out on the game. You know, and when you're deciding, look, there's an early quest in the game that says, which one of these 3 do you want? Don't stress too much about that. I mean, yeah, I guess it matters if there was a Red Widow one there. It's like, hey, that would have been a 2-star or 3-star. I forget exactly. I think it was a 2-star that, you know, I could get early on. Okay, yeah, I guess. But you're going to get so many of those. Don't stress too much about it. It's going to be there. Click the one that seems fine for the time being. It's a good thing. And honestly, if you want to use the $4, it's going to trump it anyway. So like I said, every tune is different. Every player is different. You want to look around, look at what I talked about with those costumes, what you could potentially get. Decide at that point. Check out YouTube videos. Always going to shout out my brother Halfcent. He's got some good videos on that he worked with some other people in the Alliance to try to decide for certain characters. Maybe you want to watch those to check out what you want to build at this moment. Some of that stuff pretty endgame, but at least you could plan a little bit ahead. Okay, so make sure you think about that. Save the pieces so that you can put them into the red. So make sure you're understanding what to crunch. Don't waste those things. Don't go in there and just blindly combine. You want to make sure that you're combining the proper gear. Okay. And again, you might have a PvE versus environment villain super damage versus a PvP, you know, PvP damage increase, damage decrease. You might have those different sets in your gear, or maybe you like, you know, the Sakaar stuff a little bit better because those skills you're using in PvP more than PvE. I know for me, you know, when I'm playing, I've got a couple different skill sets where, you know, this tree is more of my PvP, you know, this one's more of my PvE. So you got to decide what works best for you. Think about it. Again, hit up some of the videos, hit up the Discord link. I've got that below. You know, happy to talk about it. I love to try to help people in game as best I can. Appreciate you guys making this far in the video. Like I mentioned, hammer down the like button, click the notification bell, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.